All right, let's do this. Ready for a deep dive into the 7 habits of highly effective people.
Let's dive in.
I think a lot of people have heard of this book by Stephen Covey,
All right.
but it's one of those ones that's been around for so long
Mm-hmm.
that I think it's worth revisiting. Because I think sometimes,
Please.
those books that have been around forever, they're around for a reason, right?
Right. Sure.
What do you think is so unique about Covey's approach here?
Well, I think one of the things that makes it so unique and so powerful is that it's not about these sort of superficial quick fixes or tricks.
Yeah.
It's really about building a really solid foundation based on principles.
Okay.
And he calls this the character ethic.
So the character ethic, how is that different from, say, just trying to get really good at time management or just get really good at public speaking?
Yeah, that's a great question. The character ethic is really about developing those core principles like integrity, honesty, fairness, courage, all of those things. And, Covey believes that true success, lasting happiness, flows from these fundamental traits. It's kind of like building a house on solid bedrock rather than shifting sand.
So it's more about being than doing, would you say?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you can contrast this with what he calls the personality ethic.
Okay.
And this approach focuses on techniques and appearances. It kind of promises this quick path to success, but really it's like using a map of Detroit to navigate Chicago.
Oh,
You might think you're getting somewhere, but you're ultimately lost.
Yeah, you're going to end up in the wrong place.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to see the difference here.
Mm-hmm.
How does Covey illustrate this in a way that really, kind of hits home for people?
Yeah, well, he shares this really fascinating story about his own son who was struggling in baseball.
Okay.
And he and his wife, they tried everything to improve his performance. Pep talks, positive thinking, practicing with him for hours.
Wow.
And, they were really applying this personality ethic full force.
Did it work?
Not really. In fact, it seemed like their efforts were kind of backfiring.
Interesting.
And, they came to this realization that their underlying perception of their son as inadequate was actually the problem.
Huh.
So all of their actions, their words, even though they were well-intentioned, it was almost like they were communicating to him, you're not good enough.
Oh, wow.
And that's a tough realization.
It is. It is a tough realization.
But it seems like they had to change their own perceptions first before they could actually help their son.
Precisely. And, it's this profound reminder that true change often begins with examining our own mental maps. And this is what Covey calls paradigms.
So paradigms.
Yeah.
I think maybe some people haven't heard that word before. Maybe explain it a little bit.
Yeah, think of them as the lenses through which we see the world.
Okay.
So our paradigms shape how we interpret everything, our relationships, our work, our understanding of ourselves, and sometimes our paradigms are just plain wrong.
It's like thinking the earth is flat when it's clearly not. There you go, yeah. That is a perfect example of what we would call a paradigm shift.
Okay.
And that's this fundamental change in our understanding of reality.
Okay.
And Covey argues that being open to these paradigm shifts is essential for growth and effectiveness. We need to be willing to question our assumptions, see the world through different lenses.
Okay, so how does this then all connect to these 7 habits?
Right, so the 7 habits actually provide a framework for achieving what he calls private victory and public victory.
Okay.
And private victory is about mastering ourselves, starting with our own perceptions, our own paradigms.
Okay.
It's about becoming independent and principle-centered.
So private victory is like building that solid foundation that we were talking about.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then public victory is about building effective, interdependent relationships with others.
Okay.
But you can't have true public victory without first achieving private victory.
Right.
It's like trying to build a skyscraper on that shaky foundation that we talked about earlier.
Yeah. It's not going to work out too well. Right.
So where do these first 3 habits then fit into all this?
So those first 3 habits, they're like the cornerstones of private victory.
Okay.
So habit 1 is be proactive, which is about taking responsibility for our own lives, focusing on what we can control.
Okay.
And that's our circle of influence,
Okay.
as opposed to getting caught up in worries and anxieties that are outside of our control.
So it's choosing your response to things rather than just reacting.
Yes, exactly. It's about shifting from that victim mentality to a creator mentality. Using proactive language like I choose, I will, instead of reactive phrases like I have to or if only.
Oh, that's a big shift.
Yeah.
It's a big mindset shift.
Huge mindset shift, yeah.
So tell me about habit 2. Begin with the end in mind.
Yeah, so this habit is about defining your values and goals, creating that clear vision for your life. It's about living intentionally, aligning your daily actions with the person that you want to become.
And I've heard about Covey's exercise of visualizing your own funeral. Is
Yes.
that part of this?
I
Yeah, that's part of habit 2.
Okay.
And it's such a powerful tool for getting clarity on your values.
Yeah.
Think about it. What would you want people to say about you at your funeral? What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
Hmm.
These questions, they force you to really think deeply about what truly matters.
Yeah, for sure.
And then once you have that vision, you can actually use it to guide your everyday choices.
Yeah, that makes sense.
hmm And he even talks about writing your own personal mission statement,
Okay.
which can be a really powerful exercise.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they have like a business mission statement, but
Right.
not like a personal one.
Yeah, it's taking it to that personal level.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the things that makes Covey's work so powerful,
Yeah, I
is
see
that
that.
he's really taking it to that personal level and saying, what do you want your life to stand for?
Yeah.
What do you want to be remembered for?
Hmm.
So that brings us to habit 3. Put first things first.
Okay.
And this one is all about prioritizing what truly matters
Okay.
and not letting the urgent but unimportant tasks of daily life kind of take over.
Yeah, I think a lot of us can relate to that feeling of being busy but not productive.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
You're just doing stuff, you're just checking things off your list.
You're spinning your wheels.
Yeah, you're not really getting anywhere important.
Exactly.
So how do we escape that cycle?
So this is where Covey's time management matrix comes in.
Oh, okay.
It's this really simple but brilliant tool for categorizing tasks based on importance and urgency.
Okay.
So imagine you've got this grid with 4 quadrants. Urgent and important, not urgent, but important. Urgent but not important. And neither urgent nor important.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Okay, so the key takeaway here is to spend more time in that not urgent but important quadrant.
Okay.
These are the activities that often get neglected,
Mm-hmm.
but they have the biggest impact on our long-term goals and well-being. Things like planning, relationship building, personal development,
Okay.
even taking time for proper rest and renewal.
So it's like being proactive with your time rather than just reacting to whatever's in front of you.
Exactly. So habit 3 is all about aligning our actions with our values, with our priorities,
Mm-hmm.
making sure we're not just busy, but we're truly productive.
This is resonating.
Yeah.
I can already see areas of my own life where I could improve.
Oh, that's great.
So those are the first 3 habits, the cornerstones of private victory.
Right.
So let's talk about, we've got 3 more to go in terms of these habits. So what's the first one when we start talking about interacting with others?
Yeah. So it's habit 4, think win-win.
Okay.
This one is about shifting our mindset from competition to cooperation.
Okay.
So it's about seeking mutually beneficial solutions in all our interactions.
So instead of dog eat dog, where it's like, in order for me to win, you have to lose,
Right.
it's this idea that we can both win.
Exactly. It's about believing that everyone can win.
Okay, I like that.
And this really ties into what he calls the abundance mentality.
Okay.
So it's that belief that there's enough out there for everyone.
Yeah, I like that a lot. But I think a lot of people, it's hard to, putting that into practice, I think can be really tough.
Yeah, it's challenging.
So how do we actually create those win-win situations when, let's face it, not everyone is approaching life with that mentality?
Right. Well, it really starts with building a foundation of character.
Okay.
And Covey, he highlights 3 essential traits: integrity, maturity, and then that abundance mentality that we just talked about.
Okay.
So integrity means living in alignment with your values, being honest and trustworthy. Maturity is about balancing courage and consideration,
Okay.
being assertive about your needs, but also being empathetic to the needs of others.
So those character traits sort of create this environment of trust and respect where win-win becomes possible.
Exactly, exactly. So you're approaching it from a place of cooperation rather than competition.
Yeah. Okay.
And then once you've established that foundation, you can move on to habit 5,
Mhm.
seek first to understand, then to be understood.
This one seems really important for effective communication.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I think we've all been in situations where we felt like we're not being heard
Right.
or the other person just doesn't get it.
Exactly.
So what does it really mean to seek first to understand?
It's all about empathic listening.
Okay.
And, this is not just about hearing the words that someone is saying, but it's about truly trying to see the world from their perspective.
Okay.
So listening with the intent to understand, rather than just waiting for your turn to speak.
Okay, so putting yourself in the other person's shoes.
Exactly.
Right.
Trying to really understand their feelings and their needs.
That's a skill.
It is a skill.
It takes a lot of practice, I think.
It does.
Yeah.
Especially when you have strong opinions of your own,
You're sure.
It can be really hard to kind of put those aside.
Yeah.
But it's such a skill worth developing because it lays the foundation for genuine connection. And, Covey even connects this back to ancient Greek philosophy.
Oh, okay.
He talks about ethos, pathos, and logos
Interesting.
as essential elements of persuasive communication.
So tell me about those three things.
So ethos refers to your personal credibility,
Okay.
the trust and respect that you've built.
Okay.
Pathos is about connecting with the other person's emotions,
Okay.
showing empathy and understanding.
Okay.
And then logos is the logical presentation of your ideas.
Okay.
So when you combine all three,
Mm-hmm.
you create a much more powerful and effective communication style.
So it's not just about the logic or even the passion that you have for something.
Right.
It's about building that trust and connection first.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about approaching communication with the intention to understand.
Yeah.
And to build a bridge rather than just trying to push your own agenda.
This is making me think about how I communicate.
Yeah.
I can see where I can make some improvements.
Yeah, I think we could all,
Yeah.
continuously improve on this.
So how does this all tie in with habit 6 then? Synergize.
Right. So synergy, this is like the magical result of effective interdependent interaction. It's that moment when the whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts.
Okay.
So when people with different perspectives come together,
Mm-hmm.
they can actually create solutions that are better than anything they could have come up with on their own.
So it's looking at those differences not as obstacles, but
Right.
as opportunities for creativity.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about leveraging those differences to create something truly remarkable.
How do we actually foster that kind of synergy, though?
Right.
It sounds kind of magical.
It does, but it's not magic.
Okay.
It's about creating an environment where synergy can flourish.
Okay.
So it starts with cultivating that mindset of openness
Okay.
and respect for different viewpoints,
Mhm.
being willing to let go of your ego and your need to be right.
So approaching these interactions with curiosity,
Yes.
a willingness to explore new possibilities together.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it's about making those deposits in the emotional bank account that Covey talks about.
Yes.
Building that trust, creating that space for open and honest dialogue.
You got it.
Okay.
When there's that trust and respect,
Yeah.
people are more likely to be open to new ideas,
Mm-hmm.
to challenge each other's assumptions, and to really collaborate in a way that leads to those innovative solutions.
This is making me think about teamwork
Yeah.
in a whole new light.
Yeah.
It's not just about dividing and conquering.
Right.
It's about bringing together different perspectives to achieve something better.
Absolutely. And, it's important to remember that synergy can happen in any relationship.
Oh, okay.
So at work, at home, in your community.
It's applying those principles that we talked about.
Right. Those principles of open communication, respect, and a willingness to co-create something new and better.
Okay, I like that. So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
With these first 6 habits.
Yeah.
From personal responsibility to win-win thinking to
Mhm.
synergistic communication.
Absolutely.
It's a lot.
It is.
But he doesn't stop there.
He doesn't.
There's one more habit.
There's one more.
Habit 7. Sharpen the saw. What does that even mean?
Okay, so sharpen the saw is all about renewal.
Sure.
It's about taking care of yourself so you can continue to be effective in all areas of your life.
So it's more than just self-care.
Right.
It's about investing in yourself so you can really show up as your best self.
Exactly.
Okay.
And Covey emphasizes that we need to sharpen the saw in 4 key dimensions:
Okay.
physical, spiritual, mental, and social emotional.
So it's holistic.
It is. It's recognizing that all of these dimensions are interconnected
Okay.
and that neglecting one will inevitably impact the others.
Okay.
He compares it to a table with 4 legs.
Okay.
If one leg is weak or broken, the whole table becomes unstable.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. So let's break down each dimension a little bit.
Okay.
What are some examples of sharpening the saw physically?
Okay, so for the physical dimension, it's all about taking care of your body,
Okay.
getting enough sleep, eating nutritious foods,
Yeah.
exercising regularly, managing stress effectively.
The basics.
The basics, yeah. It's about building physical resilience and energy.
What about spiritually?
Ah, yes, the spiritual dimension.
This one's a little more abstract.
It is a little more abstract.
So how do we sharpen the saw spiritually?
Well, it's about connecting with your core values: finding meaning and purpose in life, and nurturing your inner self.
Okay.
And this could involve practices like meditation, prayer, spending time in nature, or engaging in activities that inspire you and bring you joy.
So it's like feeding your soul.
Exactly, feeding your soul.
Okay. And what about mentally?
The mental dimension is all about keeping your mind sharp and engaged.
Okay.
So this could involve reading, writing, learning new things, engaging in stimulating conversations, or simply taking time for reflection and contemplation.
So staying curious.
Yes, staying curious, continuing to learn and grow throughout life.
And the last one, social emotional.
Yes, so the social emotional dimension is about building and nurturing healthy relationships,
Okay.
developing emotional intelligence, and contributing to your community.
So putting those public victory habits into practice.
Exactly.
The win-win, seeking to understand,
Yeah.
synergizing.
Exactly. It's about investing in those relationships that bring you joy, support, and a sense of belonging.
This all sounds great, but also like a lot.
It is. It can feel like a lot.
To fit into an already busy life,
Yeah.
how do we find the time to do all this?
Right, and that's where habit 3, put first things first, comes back in.
Okay.
Remember, it's about prioritizing those not urgent, but important activities. Sharpening the saw falls squarely into that category.
Okay.
It's an investment in your long-term well-being and effectiveness.
So it's making a conscious choice to carve out that time,
Yes.
even when it feels like there's no time.
Even when it feels like there's no time, exactly.
Okay.
And, the beauty of it is that renewal in one dimension often fuels renewal in the others.
Okay.
It creates this upward spiral.
I like that upward spiral.
Yeah.
So where do we begin? How do we actually, what are some tips for actually putting this into practice?
Okay, so one of the simplest but most powerful things you can do is what Covey calls the daily private victory.
Okay.
And that's dedicating at least an hour each day to renewal in all 4 dimensions.
An hour.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be all at once.
Okay.
Even just 15 minutes in each area can make a huge difference.
So 15 minutes of exercise, 15 minutes of meditation, 15 minutes of reading, 15 minutes of connecting.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about making those small but consistent investments in yourself.
Small but consistent.
Small but consistent. Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
Think about it. What would happen if you committed to that daily private victory for a month,
Yeah.
even a year?
Wow. Yeah.
How do you think it would impact your life, your relationships, your work?
That's a big question.
It is a big question.
It makes you realize that this isn't selfish.
Right.
It's actually essential to
Exactly.
live a good life.
Exactly.
Well, I think we've done a good job of sharpening our saws today. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the 7 habits of highly effective people.
My pleasure.
Encouraging all of you to check out the book for yourself, really dive into these principles.
It's a powerful book.
And until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep sharpening that saw.
Absolutely.